Most fictional stories revolve around conflict. Without conflict, there would be not a lot to talk about. The ultimate form of conflict is a full-scale war, where entire armies meet in battles. I remember reading a sci-fi series written by James White called Sector General, where the author decided to write stories without conflicts and violence as a personal challenge. But even that series eventually featured warfare, even if on a relatively small scale. By the way, give it a read, it's fun. But I'm not here to talk about my tastes in sci-fi literature. I am planning to run a military sci-fi game, and while preparing for it, I ran into some problems with how the genre works in the tabletop RPG medium. And that's what I like to discuss: military campaigns in tabletop RPGs, be they fantasy, modern or sci-fi. So what are the problems? This is what I am going to talk about. How to structure a military game, how to structure a military party, how to make the characters' actions feel impactful, and how to deal with the chain of command. Unfortunately, GURPS books do not answer most of these questions. There are small bits of advice in GURPS Mass Combat, GURPS Space and Pyramid 355, but they are just not enough. However, I looked back to my library of D&D books and found a book that I have been mostly neglecting in the past, Heroes of Battle. While it is intended for use in D&D, the advice you can find in the first chapter is quite sound and applicable to any kinds of military games, not only fantasy. Most of the things I will say in this video will be based on Heroes of Battle. The most important piece of advice is think big, play small. While the war itself is a large-scale political conflict, you do not play it out. Sure, GURPS has mass combat rules for resolving such engagements, but that's wargaming, not role-playing. Remember all the war movies and books. They're not about the war, they're about a group of characters on a small, dangerous mission. And that's role-playing. Quoting Heroes of Battle, the war becomes the world or setting, the missions become the dungeon. While your characters probably won't affect the war in a significant way and might not even know the reason behind the war, they will be able to affect the battle, because the battle's success hinges on small engagements. Their tasks, be it protecting the castle gate, clearing out a building infested by hostile forces, or saving a trapped squad, will feel impactful, even if they do not turn the tide of the entire war. As for the rest of the battle, it becomes something of a backdrop of the series of small engagements. As a GM, you can describe what's going on, but do not put too much focus on that. Your characters are the stars of the show. However, it could be useful to remind the players that the battle is still happening. For example, you could create a table to roll on every 5 or 10 seconds of combat. The table could have such results as an artillery shell lands in your area, or debris from a destroyed aircraft rain from the sky, or reinforcements arrive. Heroes of Battle suggests creating an adventure flowchart that shows how the battle progresses, what engagements the party participates in, and how the situation changes depending on the results. Both Heroes of Battle and GURPS Space have some advice on how to structure the party of player characters. They could be a military team, such as a squad or a fire team that belong to a regular army or a mercenary company. They could be fighter pilots or other vehicle operators belonging to the same squadron. They could be a trained team of specialists, or they could be a cell of guerrilla fighters, or even civilians caught in the conflict and trying to escape the war zone. If they are part of the regular military, it might be a good idea to ignore the starting wealth rules and simply give the characters one of the standard loadouts for their role and use character templates. In any army, the chain of command is very important. If the characters are simple soldiers, then they probably will have to listen to the orders of their commanding officer. It might seem like railroading, but that's how it works. You are a soldier, you do what you are ordered to do. But you still might have a degree of freedom with how you approach the task. However, while in D&D rank did not have any mechanical benefits, in GURPS it might be fun to have a low-level officer in the party, with a couple of levels of military rank. In that case, be sure to use GURPS Social Engineering pulling rank. You get mechanics for requesting evacuation, fire support, call in an artillery strike, and so on. Another fun thing to try out would be to give the players control of the battle itself. You have GURPS Mass Combat, why not use it? Between your normal sessions, where you play out individual small-scale engagements, you can let your players take a turn using the Mass Combat rules, and based on the results or the orders given, play out the next session, and maybe the results of the character's actions will give a bonus or penalty to the strategy roll of the Force Commander. There might be some other GURPS-specific problems. For example, the second-by-second turn resolution might become a drag. It might be a good idea to ask the players to tell you what their characters are going to do for the next, for example, 3 or 5 seconds, and just give them an opportunity to change their actions if something goes not as expected. This will speed up the play. Also, if you are running long-range engagements, it might be even a good idea to abolish the hex grid and simply measure distances. With all that said, I think I have dispelled some of my worries, and maybe some of yours as well. Military campaigns can be fun in a tabletop RPG medium, as often there are many rules or other features that can only come up in such games. For example, if you are playing a high-tech or ultra-tech game, this is where you can give a shot to vehicle rules, indirect fire rules, and try out lots of LC1 gear that you had never had access to before. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.